this year and into next year, arrests because of the election frauds in 2020 and beyond, the financial frauds, and some of the crises that we found there. We, in a very, very Kennedy-esque sense, need to have hope there for the future and for the kids. What's it sound like to the young people if we're all doom and gloom and it's the end of the world and, near-death experience, it's all done? Is there a there for them? Are we going to have a world that they get to move into with beauty, high hopes, their chance to have a family and to live the American dream? Absolutely. And so even in the midst of all this, Trump is doing something very Kennedy-esque. He's laid the groundwork years ago in his first term, and we're following through on it now. The current flyby going to the moon, and around the moon, we're going actually deeper into space than man has ever gone before, out past the moon on this lunar return mission. Next year, based on how things go on this flight, the intent is to send a manned mission to the moon, land on the moon, and then with the follow-up flights and systems to take the necessary systems and structures to build a moon base that will be permanently a habitation for mankind, starting with the U.S. by 2030. So, I have one of my listeners' sons. I'd talked with the family several years ago, and he wanted to go to college, and he had particular interests. He was an athlete like that. I said, you got to think about mining and a career in the mining industry. And he liked that idea because of where he was from. And so he pursued that. He just graduated a few weeks ago. And when we talked, and he was in a competition for mining skills and all that, where they actually go out and, flail away with sledgehammers and timber beams and all sorts of fun stuff. And I didn't hear how that went, but it's kind of a fun idea. That was in Arizona. But I said, you ought to consider going back and doing a PhD on the mining for off-world mining on the moon, best practices for mining on the moon, and Mars and the asteroids and beyond. Because in your lifetime, that's where we're going. Don't stop with just mining here. When we get to the moon, there's going to be some excavation and mining that will be done there. The base itself won't be above ground. It'll be like Antarctica. The main base areas will be below ground. And for, safety with meteorite strikes, things like that. And then materials manufacturing. You're not going to take all of what you need to build that base from the Earth to the moon. You're going there with the right equipment to take what's already there on the moon and turn it into usable building materials, which it's sand, it's glass-like, talcum powder-like sand, glassine in nature. And you're going to melt it down and use it for, these glass structures. It'll be stunning. It's actually glass in a zero-G environment is stronger than steel, about 20 times stronger than steel. So has high tensile strength. So it'll be really fun to do that. But in other words, President Trump is promoting things that have a bright future for this generation and for the next several generations, where mankind is supposed to go. And so this space flight is far more important to us as a people in a very Kennedy-esque sense, JFK to DJT, in what's going on in the world. So, people should be aware of that and enjoy that. And that's why I wanted to have a coin to kind of commemorate that. It's a little deviation from some of the other stuff that we have going, but I think it's absolutely on point. And so I put one together. It'll be available in a few hours.
Awesome, Juan. Let you have a sip of the coffee. Just redirect everybody to Juan's website once again, where you can buy the books, the coins now, and then the coin right after you get off this live in a few hours. And I'm going to see what I can do to muckle onto that in addition to it. By the way,
we have another announcement even later. Another announcement even later in the week on something that I won't even hint at this moment, but we also have something coming up in about.
You're hinting at not hinting.
I'm hoping 30 days.
Okay.
We have something big coming out in about 30 days that I hope people will be excited to come. So there's
awesome.
Cool things coming in the pipeline there.
Awesome. Well, when you get your company going where we can travel throughout the solar system, those little, mobile home type of the way that you describe it when we were in Anaheim, all those years ago and go park it up to an asteroid for a long weekend, I'm in. I'm so in, whether it's going to be gold, silver, and what's to come, as long as we all take precautions to make sure, like you said, wise people see what's coming and get out of the way, and everybody's got a level head, and you sit here and just step aside from that tsunami and go to high ground, and then be there and help as many people as you can and let them know it's coming.
Well, the main reason I say it that way is because Trump is on the hunt regarding Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve is a private organization. The people that founded that hijacked the lawful position of the Treasury to make and mint coin for money. Kennedy is trying to take that back with the silver certificates and go back to Treasury printed silver certificates. And by many accounts, that's the reason why it was killed. Trump has been very, very blatant in his attack over towards the Federal Reserve and protection of the Treasury, even to the point of putting the security fencing around the White House and around the U.S. Treasury last summer in the celebration of the 250th anniversary of the Army, but not protecting the Federal Reserve building, and in fact kicking the board of governors for the Federal Reserve, these private banks, out of a federal building and closing the building permanently. The fight's on. I mean, even this morning, a number of my calls that I had to field this morning relate to City of London and this fight involving the currencies, Federal Reserve notes, and what the Treasury is going to do in coming back on with Treasury notes and certificates. We've got drama ahead. It's going to be fierce. It's going to be unbelievable. Deep breaths, everybody. You need to get out of the way. If you were in France and the Allies landed and the Nazis are retreating through Paris, you're going to stick your head up in the middle of a firefight? No. Go down deeper in the basement, get out of the way, because you're just going to be collateral damage. You think you're going to help or yell or scream or wave your fist at the Nazis? So it's be wise, understand the environment that you're in, and get out of the way.
Juan, do you feel that I haven't said this, but others that we know, and Michael was saying that there's coming lockdowns. We have seen weeks ago, right before Iran kicked off, energy lockdowns, and a little bit after that, energy lockdowns might be happening, Australia and other places. Do we see that?
Well, part of that actually goes to the situation with Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. Part of that also goes into the monetary situation with even these bond instruments, you're talking about an inability to complete transactions, energy transactions for these materials. So that's a very, very sketchy moment that's coming there. And, in fact, I'll even go so far as to say this. While most people think of the emergency broadcast system coming on because of a missile attack, some cataclysmic thing, you could also have it on in a financial crisis where your credit card doesn't work. You can't go to the bank machine. The gas station can't pump gas because there is a problem within the communications grid. Okay. And so you don't have communication except that's the emergency broadcast system. And that might be closer to what we actually anybody tells you to know exactly what's going to happen, you probably wouldn't just walk away. You don't have to run, but I wouldn't waste time listening to them. There's a number of options, and what is a crisis, say in Canada or the Midwest, may not be fully the same crisis on the West Coast or fully the same crisis on the East Coast, and how it plays out. In highly rural areas, the problems that you face may be strikingly different from what you would face in a downtown Chicago or New York location. And time of year has an impact on it too. So it's a hand of God moment where you need God's hand of assistance, protection, guidance, and for your next choices, next decisions.
Yeah, even Scheinbaum just 4 or 5 days ago, leading into the long weekend, Holy Week, right down here in the Americas, the Southern Americas, said that by the end of the year, no more money. You will be using a central bank digital currency across Mexico. So that warning is out there for everybody. And once again, Mexico mines approximately 20-25% of silver's exports alone, on top of a lot of other precious metals and so many other things. So there's something massive about to hit, and they can't.
And remember, just because they say they're doing something doesn't mean they fully get to pull it off. Mexico, doesn't have, it has a lot of infrastructure. It does not have the infrastructure that even India has, who did go digital themselves. And what you find is that the people found other ways to get around it with other forms of trading. So the success there may not be as universal as they think it's going to be. And so we'll watch and see.
Wild. So do we see anything from suppressed technologies coming up? I mean, we have a lot of Canadians in the chat. South Africa is in here as well, all across the Americas. I probably don't have anybody in Argentina and Chile that said they're here, but here's a question. Can Juan tell us, Canadians, whenabouts will become the 51st state? I will add to that, everybody, that once again, you're seeing President Trump and the White Hat Alliance do everything in a lawful manner and a return to divine natural law. That's my 100% take on it. So we are also seeing, once again, the First Kingdom being restored in a manner in which you were sharing with me 2 years ago on Boxing Day, December 2024 one. Would you like to address anybody? And there you go, 51st state, please. Yeah, the comments are coming in from Canadians. 51st state, please. Your thoughts on this?
I have my alarm's going off because I have something else I have to do in a few minutes. So let me just say this, though. If you get right down to it, it would be very hard, even an affront to the Canadian people to try to make them a 51st state. We talk about it. It's kind of a fun thing. The reality is, it's like a marriage. You've aligned your purposes. You are working together. You make some kind of a marriage commitment. But at the end of the day, you're still physically two independent people with a single purpose and combined interests at every level of physicality. But you're still different. And so, what we're really looking at with Canada is that the alignment of the various provinces to some type of business arrangements and agreement. You know, Reagan said the business of America is business. We we do business. We make things happen. We build things. Part of business is alliances. We engage in agreements with other similar businesses. Have a better specialty. Some companies for an aircraft. I have somebody up in Montana that builds titanium enclosures for certain of the aircraft, for the cockpit area to protect the pilot, and all from ground fire and explosions, things like that. It's very lightweight, extremely strong. The company that they sell those to is a huge company, but they do better making alliances and let somebody specialize in just that one thing. They don't have to have a factory for it. It's built to specs. That's their specialty. It's the same thing with, with what we're trying to do with Canada. We're really brothers in so many ways. And there's been this desire to keep us separate. But our interests between Canada and the U.S. are greater than Canada's interests even back to England. And a lot of those things were engineered counter to the wishes of the people back at the time that Canada kind of did its own break off. So there's need to have room to do a change up and to get on track of where you have a lot of pressure coming in externally for Canada to hold a certain line that doesn't necessarily suit the interests or purposes of the Canadian citizens. Yep. And so these colonies all over the world need room to rethink in a modern world what they're going to do. Is Canada needed as a 51st state to America? It's probably more of a kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing. We're going to become so closely aligned out of mutual need, interests, security, etc., that it may function in a similar manner to being a 51st state, but retain its autonomy more so even than states do here in the U.S. That's probably the correct way to actually look at it. I don't think that the Canadian people, at the end of the day, even the people in this audience, are well served by. It wouldn't be ultimately well received enough across enough of the population to make it work properly. What we do want to do is help the Canadian people to realize more autonomy and put out their forms. That sound right to you?
I got it. I copied that. And then Tina Peters, and then I'll go over to your links here, Juan. Yeah. You've got that next call. So how is Tina doing? And I'll take it over to Jennifer's website. Then I'll take it over to Freedom Fighting Summit coming up.
Okay. So you can imagine that Tina's, 70 years old, doesn't see an end yet. And we've promised, an end with the president's pardon. It should have been over. It's not. But she doesn't want to get out on the wrong grounds. And Governor Polis wants her to admit to the crime and ask for, beg for mercy, you know, please, I'm so sorry I did the horrible things. She didn't do anything wrong. In fact, one of the governor candidates put something out yesterday, essentially saying if he becomes governor, he's not just going to, you know, commuters, he's going to pardon her, even if this governor decides to let her out on humanitarian grounds, he's going to pardon her because she didn't do anything wrong. This whole fiasco has been absolutely, you know, one of the great nightmares that somebody could even imagine they would find themselves in just for being a patriot and doing her job. You know, she could have been thrown in prison for not doing what she did, which was protect the vote information side. She preserved the evidence and exactly what her job required her to do. And I will add this, you know, the courts in Colorado, this appeals court failed to answer any of the more critical questions, just said that she was sentenced wrong because they violated her First Amendment rights by the way the judge sentenced her. The judge is just over the top. But Colorado is the state where the local courts, all the way up through the state Supreme Court, the appeals court, which is what answered in Tina's case just the other day, said that Trump could be removed from the ballot in Colorado based on these slanderous, fraudulent conviction in New York. And we're learning all about that crime scene in the judicial realm. It went to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they determined, and you have to imagine this, we get 5-4 decisions all the time. There's 9 justices. You had a unanimous decision that they couldn't take Trump off the ballot in Colorado. Completely the opposite of what all the Colorado courts said. You couldn't find one liberal justice to agree with any of the Colorado courts that Trump could be taken off the ballot. They said, I got to leave him on. So with that in mind, how much weight do we give to any decision by the Colorado courts in Tina's case? They're out of their minds over there, and very activist. You know, Tina is truly a political prisoner. So with that in mind, will they get overturned at some point? Yes. We're trying to get her out on bond. Anybody else would have been out on bond but her, pending the resentencing, but doesn't look like that'll probably happen either. So, you know, we're working through it. Tina's been a trooper. Her health is in peril right now. But I do think that we will have her out shortly. And if she's out in time, which she may very well be, she will be the belle of the ball at the Fraud Fighters Summit. And that's, you know, I did Bondgate a week and a half ago.
Right.
It was very, very successful there in Vegas. It was invitation only had 100 people there because I wanted to review stuff and make sure that we weren't missing any key stuff as I was, you know, making some pretty wild claims, and all the experts came in and said, no, you're actually understating it, the severity of what's coming. That in mind, and there's so many different fronts where we're in great peril and the frauds are so great, we decided to expand the title because we have several just amazing people scheduled already for it. We haven't published the speaker list yet, but it's world class, and we're building it out a little bit more right now. The absolute biggest names in all of these different areas. And after we named it and said what we wanted to name it and put it out, that's when President Trump announced that Vice President Vance was going to become the fraud czar Okay, so he liked the terminology. In fact, the president's very aware of the conference coming up, and we have a limited number of tickets available if you want to go. You know, don't sit on your hands because they should go pretty quickly. We've already sold very significant quantities. So with that in mind, it's pretty reasonable. It's $350 a ticket. It's dinner on the 15th, which is Monday night, as people arrive and we all get kind of in the zone. Those conclaves will be excellent. I'll be there from the day before, and so I'll be around all day to talk with folks. The 16th and the 17th are all day, and we have 3 meals on the 16th, Tuesday, and then 2 meals on Wednesday morning and lunch. And those aren't just like a croissant and a cup of coffee. Those are full on, bacon and eggs and sausage breakfast and the whole share of the very full breakfast opportunity, and full meal for the dinners and lunches, salads, meats and everything else. So they're quality meals. In fact, the Ahern is rated one of the top venues in the city for its catered meals. So part of the reason there's not a lot of restaurants around, there's 3, 4 right there. There's the Sahara across the street, but I don't want people to feel like they have to go somewhere to get a meal. The conference is going to be very dense. There's a lot going on. So having full meals there, they don't have to go anywhere. And we'll spend the time in the conclave actually enjoying everything we do together. So it will be the place to be. If we get Tina out, we'll have her there. Right. And we have some other speakers that are scheduled that you'll be like, wow, I can't believe that we got this, and they're there. So and they're going to spend time with the audience. The conclaves, the meeting, the talking at a more personal level is a very important thing. They won't be off in some green room disappearing somewhere. This is a different type of engagement that we'll do, and everybody that was with the one a week and a half ago or so thought it was just absolutely fantastic. So we've decided to open this one up to the public. Much of the same issues, but a lot of other stuff thrown in also.
Amazing one. And thank you guys for putting that on. If I could be, I would be attending it as well. And if not, maybe at the Indy in DC in August. I really want to be there for that too. But really appreciate it as well. It's an absolute honor for the amount of service that you have done. You're still standing up for the country and giving advice to people out there, which literally could save their lives and help their families live a better way of life moving forward, and giving us actionable tools. It's a true honor. And thank you very much. You and
well, and let me add one thing. There's a lot of people within, the patriot community, conservative community, whatever, that have gotten very verbose in their anti-Trump rhetoric and criticizing him over Iran and like that, and even generals and others, acting as though Trump is somehow putting the world at peril and everything else because he's taking on Iran and Venezuela and all this stuff. Cuba's coming. We're hard at it with Cuba, in part because we're going to be very, very, very involved right next door there in Guantanamo Bay. As these arrests and housing begin to happen there, the whole world's media is going to be drawn to the area. And Cuba, with its alignments with China, Russia less so, has had a problem. Cuba was relying on that cheap oil out of Venezuela. They're in serious trouble. And we have some help there. By the way, Canada and Cuba, there's been a freeway, thoroughfare going on there for quite a long time.
Castro too, daddy and son.
Yeah, you got it. The acorn didn't fall too far from the tree on that one. And
Nope.
so the long and short of it is, we're actually dealing with a number of these issues where there's hidden alliances. They're having a bit of a joke on the rest of us, and we're kind of done with that. And moving forward, so as we deal with Cuba, some of those reverberations are going to go to Canada also. Uh, uh, the need between the people of Canada and the U.S., mining, stuff going up into Greenland, the North Sea Passage, all these different things, our interests are very, very closely aligned. And the people, there is a type of relationship between brother type of relationship that he reiterated naturally there. And we're going to work hard to do certain things. By the way, the robot arm on the space shuttle, that was built in Canada. You have certain technologies there that we're going to want to use, and you have skill sets there. Even with our building out of a moon base, the intent from this administration is to align Canada very closely with what we intend to do there. So any of you kids up there in Canada, get to mining.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Most definitely. Well, I appreciate